Let's talk about values. So a long, long time ago, forgot, probably 12 years ago, I used to send people to Dr. 𝒂𝒂𝒕. Is that his name? I always call him Dr. Martini, but 𝒂𝒂𝒕, I think is his name. And I looked the other day, and he actually still has his free values assessment. And I want to point this out. And I didn't check to see how updated it is because I've added my own updates to what I do. But I absolutely want to give him credit because he's like the king of values. But when we're talking about values today, we're not just talking about creativity and discipline and beauty. Okay, that's great. And if you go on his website, just find him. Just type in Google values Dr. 𝒂𝒂𝒕, and you'll find him. If you just put martini, you'll probably get a glass of an olive with a martini in it, right? Anyway, it's good to take that so you know what your values are. But I find that a lot of times when people are taking these assessments, we put in the things that we want to think we value, right? Like my values are creativity, learning, and teaching. Like hands down. If I could just be learning, teaching, and creating all the time, so happy. So it's very in alignment with who I am. But let's take this further. And let's look at what you say you value against what you show your value. Okay, actions speak louder than words. So one of the things that I encourage you to do is get a little journal, get a notepad, and start on Monday and go all the way till Sunday night. And write down what you do, how you spend your time. And yes, that means if you spent 20 minutes on TikTok, or if you started scrolling Instagram before you even got out of bed, or if you watch TV for 4 hours, or if you text back and forth with 3 different people gossiping about 2 different people, all of that matters. And a lot of times people don't want to take the time and spend the time to track their time. But at the end of that week, you are going to see, after you take the 𝒂𝒂𝒕 test, because you may say, these are my values. But after you do that exercise, you're going to see firsthand if you're telling the truth. Because if you say your value is family, I'm just giving you an example. Let's say family and travel. And you notice after you've gone back over the week that you opted for social media scrolling at the dinner table or watching TV where there was no conversation or whatever else. You have to really ask yourself, is family really a value? And as far as travel, did you opt to spend money on a Louis Vuitton handbag or a new iPhone? Because if you really value travel, then you would be putting money in an account so that you can take that trip to Madrid, right? So we think that we have values that we want, which is great. And, you know, one of the things in one of my programs at the very beginning, I think it's Intention Academy, I have them take a values assessment. And it's because, and in the book, Imagine That, my book, Imagine That, I also ask them, recommend this values assessment. Because if you don't know, and for me as a coach, if I don't know what my client values, well, it's going to be really hard to help them create an ideal outcome that we can intend toward. But what I found is that people, this is over time, over years, people say they value something, but they demonstrate something different. So why is this important? Because if you do not understand what your values are, you will continue squandering your time. You've got to understand something. We all have to understand something. Time and energy, money too, but time and energy are non-renewable resources. I mean, yeah, you can say energy, I can take a nap, but you know what I mean. Time and energy are non-renewable resources. Time, energy, and money are your resources. So if you are spending your time your money and your energy on things that are not in alignment with what you say your values are, you need to reassess. And we live in such a time in our society where distractions are like, the way of the world. We are distracted with social media, with news, with texting, with Zoom calls, new free seminar, this and that, and email, texting. So we are so distracted, which then slams up against our nervous system. And the message our nervous system gets is, oh my God, I can't keep up. And it's overwhelmed. And I don't think I have to tell you that puts you into fight or flight, which puts you into busy beta brainwave, which will absolutely keep you from connecting to the quantum, which, is kind of the whole idea here. So you've got to pay attention to those distractions because they're stealing your life. They're stealing your sanity and they're instilling stress. So if you take this challenge, I'm going to call it the values challenge. I'm going to tell you one more time. Go to Dr. Demartini's website. Take the value assessment. It may take you 15 minutes, I think. And find out what your top 10 values are. And just put them aside. And you don't have to go from Monday to Sunday night, but it needs to be a 7-day. It needs to include the weekend. It needs to include all your work days. Do a 7-day assessment. And one of the ways, I'll give you another hint, if you are really seriously going to do this, is do a schedule beforehand. Like sit down and say, okay, here's what I'm doing on Monday. Here's how I'm breaking my day up. So at least you have some guidance on what your plans are. And then you take that same piece of paper or a different piece of paper and you say, oh, I didn't get that one done. Oh, I didn't do that. And it's really a wake-up call. And I think at the end of the 7 days, you're going to see that one of two things. You were wrong about your values, or you're wrong about your values. You have other values that are more important than this. And 2, you need to change. And I'm going to tell you the 2 ways that you can change. And this is very, very helpful if you are upset because your business isn't doing better, or you can't figure out why you're not getting ahead or whatever. If you say your values, like let's say, for example, you thought your values were wealth and family. I'll just say family again. And then you find yourself going shopping and buying new programs and spending all your time reading self-help books. That is not in alignment. So now the third part of this puzzle comes into play, and that is look at what you say you really, really want in life. Like say you want $1 million in revenue a year. Okay, that's your ideal outcome. And here's what you think your values are. First of all, the values that you took from the Demartini test should be in alignment with that ideal outcome. And then when you take this other piece of what you really show values are, what your values really are, if that doesn't match up to that, there's a problem. And you get to decide. You get to decide if you want to change your ideal outcome so that it's in alignment with how you spend your time and money and energy, or you want to change how you spend your time, your money, and your energy. So you have 2 choices. Gloria Steinman, for those of you who are as old as I am, she was a burn your bra, women's liberation woman. I think she was at one point involved in, oh God, she wrote a book. I can't even remember what it was now. But she was like, for her day and time, she was like really out there. She was like way out on a limb because, women were still barely working outside of the home. But she was a women's liber is what they called them back then. And now we're all liberated. So whatever. Well, mostly. Anyway, Gloria Steinman said, show me a person's checkbook and I'll tell you what they value. And it's so true. Show me a person's checkbook. Well, now we don't have checks, but show me your bank statement and I'll tell you what you value. Because you spend your time, money, and your time, money, and energy on the things that are important to you. And for most people I coach with, if they're not making traction toward what they say their ideal outcome is, I got to look at their values. And then I got to have them do a time chart. What are you spending your time doing? What are you spending, for example, a client, a gentleman that I spoke to last week, he's in real estate, and he really wants to have his gross commissions be up to $500,000. And he gets on track where it's like, okay, you could do this. And then he falls off track. And so we did this. And what we noticed is he parties good on the weekend. And sometimes he parties on Sunday night. And then that goes over until Monday. And if you go to work Monday, where you're tired and dehydrated from the weekend, and I don't mean he's an alcoholic or anything like that. I'm just saying party's a little too much for his ideal outcome. So we had to reassess that and say, maybe go out one night, like Saturday night, and spend all day Sunday planning your week, meditating, spending time with people you love that doesn't include drinking and dancing until midnight, right? It's really an easy fix, but you have to do this exercise. So if this is something that you want to do, let me know how it goes. I'm going to actually have my own coaching group do it, and I have been doing it with my independent clients just to see where we're at. And so I'm going to start introducing it because I think it's just such a valuable tool. So hopefully you found that helpful. Know what your values are, live your values, and I hope you have a great day. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye for now.